good to see him in a little bit of pink as well. I don't know if that was intentional, but it looked like there was a little bit of pink.
Yeah.
Good sort of a cross state sort of reference there from Jason.
This is the first episode of the season of MASL Monday. What's up, everyone? Alex Bastyovanszky here. We're doing this every Monday throughout the season, all the best analysis in the Major Arena Soccer League. We're going to cover what went down the weekend previous. And to start things off, we've got the two guys who would know the most about the games that took place. The Battle of Missouri, the two guys that called it on the two different teams from the St. Louis Ambush, Mr. Joey Zanaboni, and of course from the Kansas City Comets, Nick Vasos. Gentlemen, welcome.
Yeah. Hey, Joey. Hey, Alex. Great to see you. Great to be back on MASL Monday. Excited for the season.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. This is a great part of the league, and wow, what a great weekend.
It was. I mean, two games, Battle of Missouri, as mentioned, Kansas City, St. Louis, and guys, let's start with that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, first off, the Friday game that St. Louis got the better of them. And with the all-time great overtime goal, Joey, I think you almost lost your voice on that one. But just take us through the game and what went down as the Ambush took it in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, it was a terrific defensive battle, really. The highlight at the end was a great goal by Otto Jahic. But the biggest difference in the game, and I think the biggest difference in the season for the Ambush, is having Paulo back in net. We call him the Brazilian Rob Lowe. I'm not exactly sure why, other than his resemblance to Rob Lowe, of course. But boy, he was just incredible in that, made several highlight saves, and kept us close. There was a great goal in the last 90 seconds, I think, by Sosa for the Comets. That was something he couldn't do a lot about. But they showed a lot of resilience. He made a couple of great saves right at the start of overtime. And the offense just kept at it and never trailed in the game. Otto was a huge difference. Just the creativity of his passing and the work he does in small spaces. He got a chance to score a couple to give him the lead late in regulation and then to ultimately win it. So it's just a special performance on a great night for the Ambush.
And Nick, your take on that game that you saw. I mean, the Comets kept punching back in a very obviously dramatic finish with Jahic scoring the winner in OT. But what did you think of the first game of the season?
So to borrow a one word from my broadcast partner, Eric Bergrud, he would say goalkeeping. And it was the Paulo show last night. We were all curious as to how Paulo would come back and what kind of form that he would have after a knee surgery from a year ago. He looked the same. He looked unbelievable. Comets fired 36 shots at Paulo, and he was terrific. He was the difference in the game. There's no doubt about it. Frustrated the Comets a little bit. And I think this week in practice, Coach Leo Gibson is going to be working on the counterattacks because we saw St. Louis use their speed to get past Kansas City defenders on a couple of those goals. So that'll probably be something that Leo will be working on this week.
Right. And the scene shifted the next night to Kansas City. Oh, there was a lot we got to talk about from this game. A star Hollywood appearance. Leo the Legend returning to the floor, which we do have to talk about, Nick. We'll get to that in a second, actually, because I wanted to get your take on that. But that was KC doubling up the Ambush by a 4-2 count. Nick, first your analysis of that game.
First, it was a lot closer than 4-2 throughout the whole game. Comets jumped out to a 2-0 lead with goals by their defenders, James Togba and John Sosa. And then it was really tight through the middle of the game. And it wasn't until the latter stages of the second half that Kansas City was able to get up 3-2. And then eventually the dagger was from Lucia Tetzane from the half line, able to give Kansas City a 4-2 win. What surprised me in the game was that Coach Jeff Locker of the St. Louis Ambush did not start Paulo in the second game. I thought based on his performance in the first game that he would be a surefire goalkeeper in there, but it was not. Instead, hang on, let me check my notes here. Let me check. His name is Mark Baker. Okay. Mark Baker was playing like, I believe he was playing like, anyway, he was playing like a United States national goalkeeper. He was playing incredible. And they signed him from the MASL Combine that they had this year. But he looked remarkable, and he did a great job. St. Louis has got their backup keeper for sure. But yeah, there was some stuff going on in the game too, with an old Comet kind of in the middle of it, Alex.
So I wanted to ask you about that because Leo told the Kansas City Star a couple of weeks ago that he was going to he was undecided as to how much he was going to play. He was going to wait to see how much the team needed him. And if he felt they were doing okay, he was just going to stick behind the bench. And if he felt the team needed him on the floor, he was going to play. So he sat the Friday game. He played the Saturday game. I mean, you got to have Leo Gibson on the floor. He's ageless out there. I mean, he did play Saturday. What's your take on what he's going to do this season? He's going to play more often than not?
Alex, I don't think we know because he was dressed, he was signed, he was available to play on Friday night. And, if it was an overtime game. So obvious question is, why didn't Leo play in Friday night's game? We don't know.
Right.
And so we were wondering what's going to happen Saturday. And I think he got some encouragement from some of the assistant coaches on his staff to play. Because after all, he was the Comets leading scorer last year with 20 goals and 26 assists. And
one of the all-time leading scorers in the MASL.
And we also, when you factor in Rion Marks, the big Brazilian who plays target, he was not available that night. So there was one less target player. Junior Kazim, Christian Andreos, Milos Vucic, and Benji Monreal. Those are 4 key players for the Comets that were not available because of visa issues. Right. So Leo, I think he realized he had to step in and had to help. And he was the difference in the game on Saturday.
Can't wait to see Benji back in the lineup, the man who scored the MASL's goal of the year that made SportsCenter last year. Joey, really quick, your take on what you saw from the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, just to build off what Nick was talking about there just a minute ago, the Ambush dealing with some visa issues as well. We were without Vadim Kojakov. Will Niamsi was not available this weekend. Hoping that can get resolved and we can see those 2 critical parts of the Ambush back here for the 2022-2023 season. I think especially with Vadim, he's an engineer on offense, and I think getting someone like him back, I think that's maybe a goal or 2 more in that game to conclude the I-70 series there on Saturday in Kansas City. Now, listen, we actually shouted out Jason Sudeikis, having no idea he would be in Kansas City. If you're watching closely on MASL TV, when Apollo's first big saves, I said, hey, breaking it up like Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles. And that was a little bit of the cap to Jason. Like, hey, we're thinking about you out here, Jason.
Oh, he would have loved that.
Minds. We know it's good news for you now that they're Splitsville. So, yeah, seeing him over there was really cool. And it was good to see him in a little bit of pink as well. I don't know if that was intentional, but it looked like there was a little bit of pink.
Yeah.
Good sort of a cross state sort of reference there from Jason.
I was going to ask that because we were talking about this. My producer Phil and I were talking before the show because Casey's got a picture of him on Twitter where he's wearing a Casey Comet shirt. If you look at the video where he's in the box, I can't see for sure, but it's a pink sweatshirt, and I think it says Ambush across it, but I can't tell for sure. So call me out if I'm wrong, everyone, in the comments on this thing. But I kind of thought maybe he was, he's saying I love both teams kind of thing, and I'm here in Missouri, and but I mean, having Ted Lasso at the game, Nick, just really quick, because it was there in KC, your arena, just walk us through the intricacies of what happened and how this went down.
Very hush-hush. What? Jason Sudeikis might be coming to the game? What are you telling? So we get a text. Keep it quiet. Don't tell anybody. Jason Sudeikis is coming. He's going to be in the suite right over there. And so we knew where he was going to be. And I saw the pink sweatshirt too. And for the record, Alex, it did not say Ambush. Not
so you're calling me out already.
Not even an S, not even nothing. It had nothing to do with Ambush. Jason
I'm not colorblind. It was pink though.
It was pink, but it did not say Ambush. And we claim Jason because he grew up on this side of the state. But there was a lot of logistics to get him in the building without anybody seeing him. So we came in the back door. We got him up the back stairs, quickly into the suite. The lights were turned off so nobody would see him in there. It was very hush-hush. We think that he was in town celebrating Thanksgiving with his family after filming Ted Lasso. And so he was here seeing his mom. He had his 2 girls with him. They were in the suite with him. So we think maybe one of his kids said, hey, Dad, let's go to a Comets game. And sure enough, he was there. He was at the Chiefs game later on. So we
So
know
cool.
Sudeikis loves his KC sports.
Yeah, Mr. Ted Lasso himself.
Yep.
Awesome stuff, guys. And Joey, we know you got to run pretty soon, so we're going to move it along here a little bit. Just let's take, first of all, the ambush. I know we've touched on some of the important things so far, but as you look at this team this season, give us sort of your perspective of what's going to happen. Of course, you lost a big score in Mo NDI to the Empire Strikers. Just a devastating striker he is, and big point getter for you guys last year. But how are you guys going to make up for that? What's your analysis of the ambush this season?
Yeah, and another guy that we lost is JT Thomas. JT's dealing with an Achilles injury. He was, I think, the second on the top point getters list last year for the ambush squad. So with him and Mo gone and Vadim out here, at least temporarily, the offense is going to have some guys step up. But I think we saw that the team's really, really capable on the defensive end. And a lot of that starts with the former Kansas City Comet in Kevin Ellis. And Kevin has just brought such an intensity. Jeff Locker has raved about what he's done for these guys in training and at practice, and getting Paulo back and having a chance for the team to practice with the goalie, with the two guys who are going to consistently be in net for the ambush this season. Every practice, it was something that last year's squad didn't have a ton of. And so I think defensively, just really solid in the back. Stefan Mijatovic coming back as well. Played in one preseason game last year. He's dealt with a broken metatarsal, actually broken a couple of times, was out pretty much all of last year. Getting him back, another very solid defender for this team. And I think offensively, they're going to find some opportunities. Marcel Berry was maybe the player of the game for the ambush, though I don't think he showed up on the goals sheet. He set up that winner by Otto Jahic, and he has just incredible energy. Gets back and forth on both sides of the field, was able to get through the Kansas City defense on that walk-off overtime winner and put a perfect pass to Otto for a pretty easy tap-in on that OT finish there on Friday. So, I think they're going to find those spots to score, and I think that they're going to continue to develop offensively. And just talking to Jeff before the game on Friday, he said we're better at every position this year, and that's even without some of these guys who are kind of hopefully going to be coming back. He feels very good about where they're at. And I think with Paulo back in net, this defensive effort, I think it's going to be a really successful season.
And Ellis, really quick to your point there, great weekend. And 2 goals on Saturday, and not afraid to stir the pot a little bit, getting the crowd going, putting his, riling them up a bit. So, I mean, the rivalry alive and well, and Ellis looks to have a great season with you guys. And Nick, the Comets, we talked a bit about Gibson and stuff, but just give us your, your thoughts on the season as we get going here with the Comets.
Well, I think before the season, my expectations were really high. This is a team that reached the semifinals of the MASL playoffs, Ron Newman Cup playoffs last year, and they're returning most everybody. But the visa issues that I touched on earlier are really, I think, tempering expectations this year with Benji not available, Junior Kazim, who's a really promising target player, Christian Andreas, who works so hard in the midfield, and also Milos Vucic, who is going to be a scorer as well. If they don't get those players back this year, I think the Comets are going to have I think they're a playoff team without them, but I think things will be a little bit more difficult for them. And also, this injury to Rian Marks, the big Brazilian, how long will he be out? I know he's going to get an MRI this week, but he is such a big part of their offense that if they don't have him, then the Comets are going to have a tougher road to go.
Right. Okay, so let's move to first a little broader picture. Let's look at the Eastern Conference. Last year, dominated by the Florida Tropics, who return most of their big guns this year and have added another big Brazilian in Vinny Dantas. The rich get richer. Guys, what is your take on the East? Of course, the newly aligned conferences as well, because you guys were in the Central before and you're now in what is now the East. But give us your take on what you guys are both expecting. Does anyone have the firepower to knock off those Florida Tropics who return all their big guns and the Defensive Player of the Year as well?
Yeah, I mean, the realignment is a little bit of an adjustment here, I think, for the ambush. But I think back on that game the Ambush played in the regular season at home against the Florida Tropics last year. I was able to see up close and personal just an incredible defensive battle. I think it was 3-0, the final score, but I believe it was 0-0 going to the half. And I was just so impressed with what the Ambush did. Unfortunately, I do have to run. The bell just rang, but I really did believe that that was one of those opportunities for the Ambush to show, hey, we can compete with anybody. And even though Florida is back with most everybody back from last year, I think on any given day, I think the Ambush can compete and beat anybody.
Joey, thanks a lot. You are a school teacher. You got to do your thing really quick. I hope your Uncle Gary's Breakfast Burrito Company is up again and running soon after that listeria outbreak, and we'll explain that in a second. Thanks, buddy.
Good to hear somebody was actually listening. Thanks.
Absolutely.
See you, Joey.
Take care, Joey. Nick, do you know a little bit about Joey's background in broadcasting and what he's been doing lately?
Well, I know. Yeah, he's been doing great calling minor league games for the Washington's baseball team, the Fred Nats or something like that.
Yeah, the Fred Nats. He actually made his major league debut this year as well, calling a game. And I know Joey from he was with the American Association of Professional Baseball, the Kansas City Monarchs have a team. Pardon me.
Yep.
Of course. And I met Joey last year when he was leaving teaching on his last day of school, wiping down the blackboard, driving all the way to Sioux Falls overnight to start calling games with the Sioux Falls Canaries. And within a year, he was calling major league games. He's got some of the best calls. It's just hilarious listening to him.
Yeah, he's living his dream. He's doing great.
He is. And when Jokic scored the OT winner, that was his call. He said, "What was it? Shutting him down like my Uncle Gary's Breakfast Burrito Company after that listeria outbreak." I mean, yeah. Anyway, our thanks to Joey for coming on. So he just gave his perspective. Give us your perspective then, Nick, on the East and what you think. I mean, does anyone have the firepower to knock off Florida? What do you think?
Well, yes, I think yes. Florida is by far going to be the favorite because of all of the offense and the back line that they have. Chad Vandergriff is going to be back, the defender of the year. He'll be back with the Trops again this year. And they've got a great wall in front of whoever is going to be their goalkeeper. Heiner House is no longer with the team, and it's going to be Jorge Navarrete that's going to take over. So you don't know exactly how he's going to perform between the posts this year, but he does have a lot of good players in front of him. And when you look at everybody else, you look at Baltimore, their goalkeeping situation is also in flux because William Van Zela has not signed a contract and he's not listed on their official roster. So you would think Florida, Baltimore, you tick down, maybe Kansas City, if Kansas City gets some players back and they get Rion back, then maybe the Comets can challenge for the Eastern Crown. Well, that'll be some of the storylines that we'll be following this year.
Do you know much yet about Milwaukee? Have you taken a look at their roster? What do you think's going on there?
I should not discount Milwaukee because they are always going to be tough, and they've improved their goalkeeper position, by the way. They brought in Willie B. Bonahene. Yes, I can say his last name.
The man from Harrisburg, yeah.
Man from Harrisburg.
Yeah,
and I think he's going to fit in really nice with the Milwaukee Waves. So I would say Milwaukee, Baltimore, Florida being the favorite, Kansas City, they're all kind of in the mix there to see if they can unseat Florida as the champs.
Okay, and looking to the West, I mean, I think it'd be stupid to bet against San Diego, considering they're the two-time champions, and they returned, their Fab Five of scorers. I mean, 5 guys in the top 15 of league scoring last year. Boris Pardo, reigning goalkeeper of the year. I mean, there's no other word for what they did last year other than just dominant. 2 losses the entire season, and they were both in overtime, one in the regular season, one in the playoffs. It was just an incredible story, weren't they?
They were, and they were the favorites, and they went out every night and played like champions. And they're the clear favorites to win the Ron Newman Cup again this year. And I would love nothing more than for some team to rattle the Soccer's cage and to upset that team somehow. But I don't know who it's going to be. I think the best chance for someone to knock off San Diego is Chihuahua and is Monterey to stop the three-peat. So other than that.
That was my next question, was if you were to pick a team which one would it be? Because I look at the rosters and my thoughts are Chihuahua is the first one that jumps out, especially because they played the soccer so tough last year.
Yes.
Took them right to the edge in the semifinal, right to that that third and deciding game, and they returned most of their big guns too. I mean, it's going to be tough. What do you know about Monterrey? Because I haven't been able to get a read on them yet, and they haven't played yet. But what are you seeing from Monterrey?
Talent.
Yeah,
Lots of talent. They've been practicing, they've been getting ready, but when you live in Monterrey, Mexico, and you're playing soccer, you're going to find the best talent in the country, and they can pay a premium also for talent. And so I just know that Monterrey is going to have good players, and good players make for good teams. So I think it's Monterrey and Chihuahua to see if they can unseat San Diego.
Apologies, I hit mute there for a second. Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting though. Empire Strikers rebranded from Ontario Fury. Picking up Mo Ndiaye, as we talked about before, him and King Frank together is going to be a frightening combination. So let's do this then. A prediction for MVP: Ian Bennett, two-time reigning MVP, the Canadian assassin. I have to, of course, get that in as a proud Canadian. By the way, if I sound hoarse, it's because I was screaming at my TV so loud yesterday in the Croatia game. But Ian Bennett, two-time defending MVP. Are you seeing a third this year? And who would be the most likely person to knock him off if you think that there could be a new king this year for MVP?
Who I was really impressed with last year, aside from Ian Bennett, he's a remarkable athlete, and I love his game, and I'm so fortunate to get to see him play the Comets 6 times basically every year. Ian Bennett's going to be a favorite. Frank Tayou is going to be a Bennett, but he'll be a leader, a contender. But also Tavoy Morgan, who was also in the running for MVP last year. I think Tavoy or his teammate Charlie Gonzalez will be 2 players that'll be eligible for MVP, but that's probably your 4 players right there, for the league title as MVP. I
guess it comes down to also how you define MVP. If it's the one that's most important to their team, San Diego's got so much firepower to choose from, whereas Milwaukee relied so heavily on Ian Bennett last year. I'm not going to say he carried them, but he was such a huge offensive force for them when there weren't as many options around as they have in San Diego to choose from. That, it's going to, I suppose, depend on what the definition of most valuable player,
right.
Isn't it? So yeah.
And will the voters, are they going to get tired of voting for San Diego all the time? I mean, San Diego fatigue. I mean, I don't know. It might be a thing. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, but it's going to be exciting to see this season. Mesquite back as well. That rivalry in Dallas between them and the Sidekicks for the Dallas area supremacy. A lot of fun to watch. Nick, that's it, man. Like, thank you for carrying the load after Joey had to go back to teach school.
Yeah.
After the bell rang there. But thanks, man, for doing this on the first MASL Monday. We'll be doing this again throughout the season. We're going to have different broadcasters from different teams rotating in through the year. And just real quick before we go, huge thank you to the previous hosts, Adam and Pablo last season, who did this show and did it well. And I'm going to carry the torch this year, and big shoes to fill. But everyone just remember, please, to subscribe to MASL Monday and keep watching. Really quick, actually, before we go, I completely forgot the games, just to touch on this weekend. 3 games: Tacoma Empire, Utica Baltimore, Monterey Mesquite. Really quick, Tacoma Empire, your thoughts on that? Probably like a 30-second thing for each one, and then we'll get out of here.
Sure. For Tacoma and the Empire Strikers, I think the game's going to be a whole lot closer. I think on paper, a lot of people would just automatically put Empire through on that game. But the Empire are going to be without Frank Tayou as well as Robert Palmer, 2 of their best players because of suspension. So they'll be without them during the first game of the season. They'll get them back for the second game. So Tacoma, I think, will play Empire tougher than what you may see on paper.
And I can confirm something that I put a feeler out about, because some people were unable to answer the question. We didn't know. Nick Pereira was not listed on the roster on the website. Of course, he's the general manager of the OL Reign now in the NWSL. I can confirm I got an email back from Nick last night. He said he wanted there to be so much drama surrounding this, but he's got to end the drama. He will be back this season in the lineup.
Okay.
For the Tacoma Stars. You heard it here. Nick, I mean, that
Breaking
would have been
news.
a devastating loss. So having Nick back in the lineup, one of the all-time greats, one of the all-time leading scorers in the MASL, massive for Tacoma.
Yeah.
So that's going to make the season very interesting as well. Don't count out Tacoma. Second game on Saturday, the 3rd. By the way, the Thursday game, Eastern Standard Time, 9:05 kickoff at Toyota Arena, Saturday, December 3rd. Utica, Baltimore at Sekou Arena. Your thoughts on that one?
Really interesting. I'm gonna start here with the news that everybody's wanting to find out. Will Baltimore have William Van Zela in goal for that game? He hasn't been with the club. He's not listed on their roster. Sources tell me that he has not signed a contract with the Blast. What's going to happen? Will Baltimore rely on Mike Seehofer and Zach Hausler to provide the backup for the Blast for now?
Yeah.
Also, Juan Pereira is serving a suspension for Baltimore in the first game. And I'm curious to see in this game if Everton, in his debut with UCFC, is going to be able to rekindle the fire for some of those veteran players on their team, including Gordy Gerson, who signed with them and will be playing in the first year for UCFC.
All right, good stuff. And finally, 8:05 kickoff, Mesquite Arena, the return of the two teams that were dormant the last two seasons. We last saw them in 2019-20, the Monterey Flash, the Mesquite Outlaws. I can't wait to see those two teams back on the floor again, Nick.
Yeah, Alex, you talked about the rivalry between Mesquite and Dallas, and the rivalry has only deepened because this year Mesquite has signed 8 former Dallas players, and they're good players, including Rookie of the Year Luis Morales, to their team. Yep. So there's going to be some tension between Dallas and Mesquite, but Mesquite's going to be better than what a lot of people thought. So when Monterey comes in, they're going to get a bigger challenge from Mesquite because they've got some players who have experience. But I think in the end, talent wins out, and Monterey will overcome what the Mesquite Outlaws can bring with their team back in the MASL.
Absolutely, to both points. And 3 years ago, of course, Mesquite did the same thing. They had a bunch of sidekicks players on their roster when they launched. It's going to be fun to watch. Reigning Rookie of the Year, of course. And as you mentioned, Monterey, the Mexican team's always so talented. I believe Monterey were the champs in 14-15.
Yeah.
And they're there every year. Powerful Mexican teams. They always bring it. It is going to be great to watch. Everybody get out there, watch it. If you can't watch on MASL TV on Twitch, these games, and please subscribe and like to this show. Mr. Vasos, you're the best. We will do this again throughout the year. Thank you so much for joining.
You are welcome, Alex. It was great to be with you. Happy holidays, everybody. Let's get the MASL going. I'm fired up.
Happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends. Of course, we celebrate a month before you guys do up in Canada. But yes, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and good luck in the game against Iran tomorrow. Huge game for U.S. soccer, so looking forward to that one. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next Monday.